meeting of the year for 2024. So today's Education Outreach Committee is called to order on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. And Presley, can you please begin with housekeeping?
Yes, thank you, Chair Commissioner Dr. Alhassan. I will get started. This Education and Outreach Committee meeting will be on Zoom via teleconference and held at the California Commission on Disability Access CCDA headquarters, located at 400 R Street, Suite 312 in Sacramento, California, 95811. Virtual attendees are in compliance with the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. Please remember to specify the following. If a state body member attends a meeting via teleconference from a remote location, they must disclose any other individuals 18 years or older present in the room, as well as their relationship with them. The visual appearance of a member of the state body on camera may cease only when the appearance would be technologically impracticable. Public comment on matters not on this agenda is taken at the beginning of the meeting. Public comments on matters on the agenda will be heard as the Commission takes up agenda items for discussion. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers who utilize translators to make public comment will be allotted no more than 6 minutes unless they utilize simultaneous translation equipment. CCDA is precluded from discussing matters not on the agenda. However, CCDA members may ask questions for clarification purposes. This meeting is being captioned and recorded. To assist in this effort, please state your first and last name each time you speak and speak loud and clear. The Stream Text live captioning link has been included in the chat for your use, and staff can provide the link when asked. Public participants can use the raise hand function to alert the committee of when they would like to speak, and we will also give an opportunity for public members who have called into the meeting, at which time they can unmute themselves. If you are attending this meeting via teleconference, please press *6 on your keypad to unmute or mute yourself. If you would like to alert the CCDA, press *9 telephonically to raise your hand and the staff will call on you. To use the raise hand function, please follow these steps. Using Zoom via web browser, first click on the hand function labeled reactions in the toolbar on the bottom center of your screen. After clicking reactions, a new window will show on your screen. At the bottom right of your screen, there will be a button, raise hand. Using Zoom via mobile device, click on the 3 sideways dots labeled more. The more option is in the toolbar on the bottom right corner of the screen. After clicking more, a new window will pop up at the bottom of your screen. Press raise hand. Please remember to mute yourself if you're not speaking in order to reduce noise. If you are having technical issues throughout this meeting and need assistance, please use the chat function to alert CCDA staff or email ccda@dgs.ca.gov. If you are unable to utilize the chat function to alert CCDA staff, please unmute yourself and request for permission to speak. If there are technical issues that impact the proceeding of the meeting, the body will take the following procedures. 1, stay calm and reassure. Communicate to all participants that technical issues have occurred and CCDA staff is working to resolve them. 2, backup communication. Alternative messaging to all participants, mass email communication from the CCDA staff, or email the ccda@dgs.ca.gov. For 3, we will attempt the technical reboot. CCDA staff will attempt to resolve technical issues. And 4, adjourn meeting if technical issues persist and compromise the meeting's purpose. The meeting will be adjourned and may be rescheduled if necessary. With the housekeeping, I will pass it back to you, Chair Dr. Alhassan.
Thank you, Presley. And so we're going to go ahead and proceed to agenda item 1, which is roll call. And Presley, it's back to you.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Alhassan. I will get started on roll call. First, we have Commissioner Dr. Alhassan.
Present.
Commissioner Leon Vasquez. Commissioner Leon Vasquez. Commissioner Dr. Profasta.
Present.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Present.
Commissioner Conway.
Conway, present.
Committee Member Zinat Hassan.
Present.
Committee Member Arnie Lerner.
Present.
Committee Member Stephen Simon.
Present.
Committee Member Alicia Chavez.
Present.
Okay, and with that, we have quorum. I will send it back to you, Chair Dr. Alhassan.
Thank you. I'd like to identify anyone who is in the public that would wish to identify themselves at this point. Is there anyone in the public? Okay. So I hear none, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to our agenda item number 2. All right, I'm seeing that, oh, there you are. You're back, Arnie. All right, I see you. We'll go ahead and we're going to look for approval of the minutes for April 17th. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes at this point? If there are any comments from anyone attending virtually on this item? Okay, I'm seeing none at this point. Are there any comments from the public? And personally, I'm assuming that we're not having any public participation at this point.
Yes, I was just going to say that we have no
Okay.
indication right now of any public members.
All right, so then I will not be doing that on a regular basis. All right, thank you. At this point, then I'd like to move to approve the minutes for the April 17th meeting. May I have a first? A motion.
Conway, sorry, this is Ben Conway. I move to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Guy. Do I have
This is Commissioner Ramirez in LA. I move it back to LA. Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Hector. All right. We have roll call then, please, Presley.
Yes, thank you. Presley, I will start the roll call. Commissioner Dr. El Hessen,
Aye.
Commissioner Leon Vasquez, Commissioner Dr. Profasa,
I will abstain as I did not attend that meeting.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Conway,
Conway, aye.
okay. And then committee member Zinat Hassan,
Aye.
committee member Arnie Lerner,
Aye.
committee member Stephen Simon,
Also abstaining, having not been present.
and then committee member Alicia Chavez.
And I too will abstain since I was not in attendance at that
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you. I have taken note of the votes and I will pass it back to you, Chair Dr. El Hessen.
Okay, so therefore the meeting minutes have been approved for May 17th and 2023. Moving forward then to our agenda item number 3, approval of the August 23rd, 2023 meeting minutes. Again, I know this was last year, but I haven't had a chance to review those minutes. I would like to hear if there's any questions or comments or corrections to those minutes for August 23rd. Are there any comments from our committee virtually on this agenda item? Okay. Seeing none. And we do not have any public, so I'm going to move on to have a motion to approve the minutes for August 23rd, 2023. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Ben Conway, I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second, please?
This is Hector. You have your second.
Thank you, Hector. All right, with that, can I please have roll call, Presley, on approval of the minutes for August 23rd, 2023?
Yes. Presley, start and roll call. Commissioner Dr. El Hessen,
Aye.
Commissioner Leon Vasquez, Commissioner Dr. Profasa,
Abstain.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Conway,
Conway, yes.
committee member Zinat Hassan,
Aye.
Committee Member Arnie Lerner,
Abstain.
Committee Member Stephen Simon,
Abstain.
Committee Member Alicia Chavez.
Abstain.
Okay, I will pass that back to you. We have taken the roll call vote.
All right, thank you. So with that, I'll move on to our item for number 4. Are there any comments from the public on issues not on this agenda item? And I'm assuming we haven't had any new public members attend. So given that, I'm going to move on.
Oh, this is Zenit. I think we actually do have some people who have joined, so we should pause a minute and see if they do.
Oh, thank you. Do we have any comments from the public and any non-agenda items?
Chair Dr. Alhesson, there appears to be no indication in the chat.
Thank you. All right. There's no further comments, then we'll move on to agenda item 5. And this has to do with our committee's focus for 2023. And at this time, I'd like to refer back to our executive director, April Dawson-Rawlings. I'll let you take it over at this point.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Alhesson. This is April Dawson-Rawlings. I just want to share that my name has changed. So I will be referred to as April Dawson-Rawlings going forward, but April Dawson and April Dawson-Rawlings are the same person, and going through that name change process. And so I just wanted to share, first I'd just like to share the items that the staff of the CCDA intend to bring forth to this committee throughout the year. And one of the things I really value about this committee is you're always really great about sharing, leadership on what you think CCDA should be focusing on as far as education and outreach, and what you think your focuses should be in addition to what staff is bringing to you. So I'm going to share what we intend to ask your feedback and opinions on and advice on in terms of education and outreach. And then I'm really looking forward to hearing, as usual, what this committee, visualizes as how it's going to fulfill its role this year and how staff can help. And so we will be continuing to roll out the outreach phase of our accessible parking campaign. I'll be sharing that at a different agenda item, but throughout this year, I'll be sharing our outreach efforts related to our accessible parking campaign toolkits and ways that CCDA is intending to reach those stakeholder groups. I'll also be sharing our efforts with the Disability Access Education and Revolving Fund, which again, I'll share at this committee meeting a little later. To talk about how we've been utilizing our one-pager that was developed, and how we're reaching out to municipalities to let them know that the fund exists and how they can make sure that they can utilize it. And also in some cases, depending on how they've set up the fund in their community, how businesses could utilize it as well. I'll also be talking a lot about our social media pilot and get your feedback in particular about ways that we can reach communities that maybe we hadn't reached out to before with our social media reach, and some ideas for some videos that we are planning to devote resources to, as well as our listening forums. So all of these are on our agenda for today, as well as our, in addition to listening forums, our webinar partnership with the Pacific ADA Center. So throughout the year, we'll be sharing information at the staff level with this committee about those key projects. Obviously, as we develop more projects in other committees and things like that, we'll bring that back to you. But I'd love to hear other ideas and ways that we can support you at the staff level with the goals that this committee has for your work for education and outreach. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think I'm excited about this year. I think a lot of things are going to be moving forward that we've been talking about. So I'd like to hear from our committee members and commissioners who are currently on that would like to see as we're moving forward, specifically in regards to our focus of this year. I open it up to any comments or suggestions.
Thank you. This is Commissioner Ramirez. Let me see my hand up.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you. No, definitely. I actually love this agenda, and I want to take time again just to say kudos to April Dawson Rollins for definitely a lot of the work and definitely the equity work that is in here. I think last time I really misspoke and out of confusion, but it really has a lot of really very clear tangible projects in here that I think are just very fantastic. And I think the only thing that stays in my mind as far as we're doing outreach, and this could be an aspirational thought for something later, is we were thinking at a way to connect with the different disability commissions and bodies throughout the different localities. And I know that's an ongoing project. And so I think that was one of the ones that I was thinking along the lines as well in this one, in this list of items. But I know that it is that in itself is already an ongoing project, but I just wanted to comment on the items that are before us. Thank you.
thank you. I think that's a great idea. I think other commissions, especially in LA, we have that kind of relate to what we do, because in regards to serving employers is also employment for people with disabilities, and that commission. I think there's a tie-in there in being able to support stakeholders from both sides. That would be a good joint effort in regards to what we do. Do we have any comments from the public at this point regarding our agenda item for number 5, community focus for 2024?
Commissioner Dr. Alhassan, there appears to be no indication.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so if there's no other further comments, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, which has to do with the Disability Access Revolving Fund. And at this point, I'd like to also refer it back to Executive Director April Dawson Rawlings for an update regarding this area.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Alhassan. This is April. What you have on the screen is a visual, and it is our one-pager, which also has a QR code as well about the Disability Access Education and Revolving Fund. And I won't read everything, but it says Disability Access Education and Revolving Fund quick reference guide, and there's a description about it at the top. And the description basically talks about the legislation that created the fund and talks about how $4 from every business license fee, depending on how the city or county sets up their business license fees. It could either be business license fees or building permits, depending on how the municipality sets it up. And $4 from those fees goes into a fund. 10% of the fund is administrative and is managed by the Division of the State Architect, and 90% of the funds are to be maintained locally. And at the bottom, it says, what is the fund's purpose? So I'm going to kind of summarize what the fund's purpose is. And the first purpose is to make sure that disability access and compliance is increased in terms of construction-related accessibility requirements at businesses and facilities open to the public through locally developed programs, making sure that jurisdictions are hiring and retaining casts to make sure that they're consulting with the local agency and permit applicants and members of the public to ensure construction-related access compliance and to perform permitting and plan check services. And then promoting outreach and education resources to facility owners and business owners to make sure that the ADA and the UNRU Act and the building code, as they relate to full and equal access for persons with disabilities at places of public accommodations are insured. And so in summary, the main purpose of the fund is for the education and retention of casts by local jurisdictions, but recent legislation allowed for an increase in the use of the fund, which means that now the fund can be used so that municipalities can set up programs to assist businesses with achieving access compliance. So one example of how of how a municipality is using the fund is the city of San Jose has a fund that they have used a portion of their DAER funds from that gives grants to small business owners to achieve access remediations. And they have a staff member at the city that helps the businesses apply and helps them understand how to, hire a CASP and use those funds to hire a CASP and do some access remediations for small businesses. So that's one example of how cities can use the funds that aren't used for the training and retention of CASPs. And so this is a really important fund, and it really is at the heart of what CCDA is all about, is educating municipalities and small businesses and people with disabilities about how to make sure that there's compliance at the local level, because we all know that these issues really are, they really start at the local level with somebody wanting to go into a business that has a disability, and making sure that the community is a place that respects all their customers. And so this is a fund that can really help with that. And so we developed this QRG last year. We do intend and are in the process of making sure that it is translated into multiple languages. And we are taking this one pager as far as outreach to all of our listening forums throughout the state. And we make sure that when we do that, we're translating them not just in the 12 main threshold languages across California, but also the threshold languages for the county that we're doing the county or the region that we're doing the listening forum in, to make sure that it's translated for different people. And we also started some outreach. We reached out in partnership with DSA. We reached out to municipalities that did not submit a report to DSA about their use of the funds, just to let them know that, hey, we're here. We'd love to do some education with you, have a webinar with you. And we did receive 1 or 2 responses, but we'd like to change our strategy up a little bit. So the other thing that we're going to do, in addition to reaching out to municipalities through our listening forum process to educate them about the use of the fund, is we also are developing a survey in partnership with the Division of the State Architect to just kind of get a sense for municipalities on what do they know about the fund, and kind of just start from like, what is your base of knowledge before we just go in and make assumptions. And then that way we could target our outreach in a more, a more smart manner and a more efficient manner. So we're really excited that we're continuing to do this, and that we're promoting this fund. And I look forward to any comments from the committee and the public about our plans for advertising this fund so that it gets used. Thank you.
Yes, fabulous. Thank you so much. Yes. Dr. Pravasa?
Thank you. This is Dr. Luciana Prafazza, and I have some questions, and I'll extend those questions to April. Number one, what is the extent of the fund? How many dollars are we talking about in terms of statewide? What are the responsibilities of the local municipalities to identify how those funds are used in terms of how much for CASPs? What are they spending, if anything, for access barrier removal? And how do we, as the commission, track any of that information? What happens to the funds that are not expended? Do they go back to the local municipalities' general fund? So I'm just curious about a broader view of the dollars, how the dollars are spent, how they're advertised within the municipalities for small businesses to use the dollars for access removal. What percentage of the dollars are used actually for CASP certification and training? How many of the dollars are used for barrier removal? Those kinds of questions would be very interesting and informative to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Dr. Prafazza. I'll try to answer as many of those as I can. And if I don't have the answer, I will take it back to the DSA to see if I can get drill down on some of your specific questions. But the Division of the State Architect produces a report that you can look at on their website. And I can make sure that staff if staff isn't able to find that in the moment right now to put in the chat, we could get that for you at another time, where they produce a report about how the monies are spent and who is in compliance with reporting back to the DSA how those funds are spent. We also, so the CCDA isn't involved in the tracking, but we can view the report and see, you know, how many dollars we're talking about. And it kind of varies based on how many business license fees or building permits, you know, were issued in that municipality. So it's not like an even split where every municipality gets like $500,000, for example. But so the report can share quite a bit of what you're asking for. And Alicia, I did not ask you in advance if I could put you on the spot, but if you would like to either correct me or expand on what Dr. Prafazza has said.
Yes, I too would have to find out what that information is at this point. I don't have access to it at the moment, and I was not prepared to answer that kind of question, but I certainly can collect the data if it's needed. So if I can get there was a long list, so I was trying to type as quickly as I could. If I can get a list of those questions, I can surely look into it here.
And I'd be happy to report. I'll make sure that the next meeting that you won't have to wait for the next ENO. I'll make sure it's discussed at the next ENO meeting when we have this topic, but also at the next commission meeting, since I think that'll be coming first. I'll just put a note to make sure that I kind of drill deeper into that report, and I'll talk to Alicia about it, but
Yeah.
not going to put you on the spot. But yes, we can get those answers, and I'll circle back with you to get sort of the list of how you'd like to see that, Dr. Prafazza, and make sure that everybody gets the information. I think the whole commission could benefit from what you asked, so we'll get that more detailed report for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Also, another comment regarding our outreach plan. I think if we have some specific examples, 2 or 3 or 4, identifying how dollars were used for barrier removal, I think it would add some depth to the outreach plan and the information that's provided to our business partners.
Thank you. I'm noting that in how I'm going to approach this at the next commission meeting. That's helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Prafazza.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from committee members, commissioners, virtually? Yes, I see a hand up, Commissioner Simon.
Good afternoon, committee member Simon. I haven't risen to the level of commissioner, but thank you so much. So I work for the City of Los Angeles Department on Disability, primarily building safety, obviously is the recipient of those funds. We do have a partnership there, and we utilize some of those funds to actually address barrier removal as specifically as possible, mostly around sort of transition plan build out and so on. Building and safety uses it a lot internally for staff training, both obviously in support of the initial intention of the bill and the funding. That said, I would love to, it's probably an agendized item for a future conversation, figure out how we can, both cities and the state jointly, support getting the public more involved in the path to become a CASP. We simply don't have enough CASPs around, and the city having a single additional CASP is not going to make the kind of change we want to see, both in Title II and Title III space. And right before COVID, we were working with the community college district locally, both on sort of the test prep angle for people who are sort of activists in disability community space, but not maybe as fully trained up as they could be professionally in the space, plus the actual coursework to really target, not necessarily becoming an architect in and of itself, but becoming a CASP. And if there are examples throughout the state where this is happening, and maybe it's happening everywhere but LA, I'd love to know, but we desperately need for it to happen here. And I would just love to see how we could partner. I think, we spent, a year and a half really thinking through this, and really the community college system is, I believe, designed to do the kind of training we need to have happen. And I would love to just revisit different ways to get there, and how this kind of funding could possibly be utilized by cities, counties, to achieve that goal. Thank you.
Thank you, committee members. I'd like to just piggyback on that for a minute, if you don't mind, is that, what about offering it through also the Cal State system through their continuing education program for students maybe who are studying engineering, whether it's civil engineering or whether it's architecture design, or even industrial engineering, those areas. I think that might also be a good venue to kind of market this to those individuals who are studying in that area to continue on. Before I continue, is there any other questions from committee members or commissioners on this topic? Okay, I
No,
want
this is commission. So I did hear a deployment and an outreach strategy for this document. So I just really want to point it out. And so I really did it. And to hear somebody from LA County, where I'm at, really wanting to help implement this really highlights the point, because I know in LA County, we don't have enough. And part of it is folks that are not familiar with how to utilize this particular benefit. And so I really appreciate the partnership, and definitely LA City public member being here today, because I think this is a really good conversation to have, and a model of the partnerships that we can have with all of our localities to help do that outreach. So I really appreciate this particular example, and it just happens to be that the constellation will right and we're all in the same space.
absolutely. I want to just comment on what I've been doing as a commissioner in this area. So I met with the city of Bellflower, with the city manager, and they were totally unaware of this. And I think I brought this up before at our executive council meeting and also at our local commission meeting. But I wanted to highlight that is because I think some of the problems is our city managers not understanding what it's all about. Because I also met with the city manager for Norwalk, and he also did not know anything about this. So it kind of raised a red flag for me. And I'm sure, I don't know, I can't make assumptions, but the next city I was going to be visiting is Paramount, as well as Cerritos and Lakewood, which are my neighboring cities that I visit regularly. And I thought, as a commissioner and what I do, I wanted kind of to start to educate the process of at least those in my area that I can reach out to, and if they needed support and help, and educate them in this process. Because as I mentioned to you earlier, I have businesses in Bellflower, because they know me, I'm pretty well known in the community for what I do on many different levels. But they were reaching out to me to help them in regards to writing letters or how to interact with the CASP, and what are some areas that, they need to be looking at. So I think that's important too, is maybe connecting with our chambers, our local business chambers, and helping to educate them too. And I wouldn't mind, in our area, just to go out to chamber meeting and just give him an update. It'd be great if I can have a CASP member join me, if we were able to coordinate something like that. I was just thinking that would be a great outreach effort in regards to educating our city managers as well as our chambers simultaneously. Those are just my thoughts in regards, and that my outreach that I've been doing with our cities has been eye-opening, and also kind of like, wow, really? You don't know anything about these money and where are the funds going? So that's one of the questions I asked. Okay, you don't know about our the funds coming in, but where do you think this is going? So I'm not sure if they were going to do research and get back to me. And I still haven't heard from them. So it's a matter of me constantly or unfortunately following up with them. I don't understand why I can't get the sense of urgency with the city managers or city officials. And they often refer it back to building and safety. Or maybe our building safety people know about this. So that's been my experience, and I just wanted to share that with commissioners. And if any commissioners are going out there or talk to people or know about how some ways that we can kind of light some passion in them besides passion among us ourselves. Okay. So are there any other discussions on this item number at this point?
Chair Commissioner Dr. L. Hessen, I just wanted to share that there is some action in the chat
Okay.
that staff member Presley did put a copy of the 2023 report for the DAER Fund link in the chat. And then we have some conversation about whether we could engage with Centers for Independent Living to talk about how some of their team might want to be certified as CASPs and how to support them.
Great
So
idea.
to say that that's going on in the chat.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that because I'm not looking at the chats right now. I'm kind of focusing on what we're talking about here. Thank you. Which I think the Independent Living Centers is a great resource that we should be accessing and using their talents and helping to do some of our outreach. All right, moving on to, if there's no other discussions on this point, I'd like to move on to item number 7, which is Accessible Parking Campaign Toolkit. And again, I'd like to refer this back to our Executive Director, April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Commissioner Dr. L. Hessen. I'm happy to talk with you about the Accessible Parking Campaign Toolkits. What you have on the screen, they both say draft on them, but these are but I will share where we're at with them. There's 2 guides. The first one on the left, they're both what you see on the screen, or if you're not able to see, I'll describe it to you. It says Guide to Accessible Parking, Business Owners and Operators, and it has CCDA's logo as well as the Department of General Services logo, and it's a picture of an Asian person who is wearing a waiter uniform, and he's serving drinks in an outside patio area to 3 women of color, one of whom is a wheelchair user, and they're all wearing pastel colors. And then to the left of that picture is a picture of an exterior path of travel leading from a parking lot. And then on the right, it's the same logos in addition to the CSLB logo, which stands for Contractor State License Board logo, as well as our logo and the state of California's logo and the DGS logo. And it says a guide to accessible parking for the construction industry. And the logo, or in the middle, there's these these architectural plans in black and white, kind of sitting on a fake table on top of each other. So that's what's being shown on the screen. So for the past better part of 1.5 to 2 years, the CCDA has been engaging with stakeholders from a variety of settings, the disability rights, municipalities, as well as the Division of the State Architect, as well as contractors and facility owners and small business owners, engineers, architects, and many other agencies and walks of life to create these toolkits. And so there was legislation that was passed 2 years ago called Assembly Bill 2917, and that mandated the CCDA to create a toolkit about accessible parking that also covered exterior path of travel. And also that also was the law that mandated us to start tracking alleged disability access violations related to websites in our legal portal, and to create a module and/or toolkit for that. Right now, I'm just going to be talking about the accessible parking toolkit piece of that. And so we convened an initial work group, but it was determined after that work group met a few times that it was really important to have two toolkits created, one for business owners and operators and one for the construction industry, because those 2 groups, though a lot of the rules intersected, those 2 groups really should be targeted separately and have their own voice in those 2 documents. And so that's why those 2 documents were created as opposed to just one. And so at the last commission meeting on March 20th, the commission voted unanimously to approve the toolkits with the caveat that we continue to solicit feedback as we ramp up the outreach phase about making sure that the toolkit is continuing to speak to those industries accurately. And so that's why we want to make sure that they're being brought to the committee level while we're ramping up the outreach as well. So our plan for the outreach phase at the staff level is we are going to get these printed and translated into multiple languages. We also are going to be showcasing them at the listening forums that will be taking place in the summer and the fall. And we're really looking forward to bringing those to the industries. For the construction one, the Contractor State License Board is in support of partnering with us to get these out to their members. So I'll be having meetings with them shortly to talk about how we can ramp up, whether they be used for classes, whether some of the pages turn into a one-pager in and of themselves, how we can really make sure that they're relevant to their members. And then for the business owners and operators, we're going to be showcasing them, as I said, at our listening forums and having them available on our website and in multiple languages. And I really envision having webinars and modules created from this document so that, you know, it's great as its own document, but I also think it's great to take little pieces of it and to really develop content so that people can get a snippet of, you know, like a training moment from some of these documents, as opposed to the whole, all the pages of the documents. And so we're really proud of this work. Staff worked really diligently on it with the stakeholder groups, really proud of everything we've done, and we're excited to get this out to market. So I'm happy to hear ideas for additional ways that we can market these two products to our industry stakeholders, as well as individuals with disabilities and individual business owner stakeholders. And I appreciate your time and look forward to those ideas. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Executive Director April Dawson-Rawlings. I want to open it up to our committee members and commissioners. Hi, Commissioner Prafasa.
Thank you. This is Luciana Prafazza. And I'd like to begin by commending our staff, as well as all of the collaborators, for creating excellent documents. I've read through them, and they're usable and they're readable, and they're not overwhelming. And I really acknowledge all of you for creating these. In terms of how better to distribute, I would assume that we're also contacting architectural firms and providing these documents to their local architect associations as well. And if we're not, I would encourage that we do so.
Yes, I think that's important. Go ahead. I'm sorry, April.
Sorry. Thank you. Yes, we are and we will. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Lund. Yes, please, you have the floor.
Arnie, that's me.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't see this before, but on the guide to accessible parking, business owners and operators on, well, it's actually page 8 of the document. It's page 3, where it talks about responsibilities and legal liabilities. That second paragraph, I'm really wondering if this is really true. It says under the ADA and California law, both the property owner and the tenant business owner are responsible for ensuring facilities are accessible. I know our experience in San Francisco with our accessible business entrance program, the city can only contact the business owners and not the tenants. And part of the problem is that a lot of leases between owners and tenants can make the tenant responsible for accessibility, or it cannot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure where it says in California law in the ADA that tenants are responsible for accessibility. I don't think that's true. So I think you need to look at that, because you might be giving some false information out there to tenants. Because I know for making the entrances accessible under our Accessible Business Entrance Program, which is actually part of our building code, local building code, we only dealt with the owners. And then the owners, if they made a lease to the tenant that you're responsible for accessibility, then they would pass it on. but we only we're relating to the owners. So you might want to check on that, because that first sentence might not be true. I'm an architect, not a lawyer, but I just popped out at me because I just now realized what that said.
Thank you, committee member Lerner. And if I may, I just wanted to, I think that the intent of that sentence is that we hear from a lot of businesses who rent spaces, who think that because they rent the space, they don't have they don't have to be responsible if someone is, you know, if a customer isn't being served because they have a disability, or if there's a alleged violation. And so I think the point was to make sure that the tenants and the business owners and that everyone felt empowered that they could do something about access. It was, I think, the intent of the committee putting that sentence in there, but I certainly will take back your concerns and see if we need to revise that. But that was, as I recall, the intent of that sentence, is making sure that everyone was on notice of the importance of access and that everybody plays a role in the access.
We have a question from Zinat Hassan from Disability Rights Organization. Zinat.
Thank you. Not a question, it was actually a response to this. So I'm the opposite of Arnie. I am not an architect, but I am a lawyer. So this first sentence actually is correct. The ADA and California disability rights laws allow a person with a disability to sue either the landlord or the business owner, or both. So under disability rights laws, they both have a responsibility. But you are right that California does allow the parties to, you know, pass that liability onto one party versus the other through contract. But that's that doesn't impact the person with the disabilities legal right to sue based on who they're interacting with. So my recommendation would actually be to keep this as is, because it's important for business owners to know that even if they do have a contractual relationship with the landlord that says, you know, they're going to share liability or shift it to one party or the other, if there is an accessibility violation, they could still be both named as defendants in the lawsuit, because the ADA gives plaintiffs the rights to name both of them.
Thank you, Zinat. Appreciate that. I see a question from committee member Simon.
I think I was just seconding the last point in both. You know, Arnie makes a good point for practical purposes, that there's a lot of different ways regionally where local government might interact with businesses. But at the end of the day, right, neither of them can sign away their responsibilities under the ADA or California law. And then they can definitely make agreements as to who between the owner and the tenant can sue each other for responsibility. But I'm agreeing with Zinat, Commissioner Hassan, sorry, on that point. So I do think the language is quite accurate. Actually, I'm glad it's in there, because it is often confusing at the local level about who's responsible. And I don't want either party to think they can sort of get out of it, arguably contractually, right? They may be able to indemnify themselves against each other, but not to the public.
I have a question in regards to that too, Zinat, you might help answer. Doesn't it also depend on the violation? For example, if it has to do with physical barrier removal when the person rented the space to run the business, if it didn't have accessible parking, isn't that responsibility of the person who leased this, the facility versus the business owner who came in?
So are you asking if under the ADA, if the ADA makes one party like definitely responsible for parking lot violations? Is that the question?
I was seeing that a person who had program barrier removal versus architectural barrier removal for anyone who's renting a space, the person who's actually responsible, or who for architectural barrier removal, once the person rents the space, is that really the onus of the person renting? Because they might not even have the knowledge, versus a person who owns the building or facility to ensure any person who's coming in to rent the space, it's already accessible based on architectural barrier removal.
Oh, yeah. I don't know that I can give you an easy answer to that question because it would depend on a lot of things, and California state law, you know, have additional protections that are not in the ADA. So I don't think I can give you a quick answer to that question.
No worries. I was just thinking on party responsibility that you just mentioned earlier. All right, great question, great discussion. Do we have any other comments, questions regarding Accessible Parking Campaign Toolkit? I think,
Chair Dr. Alhassan, there appears to be no indication.
thank you,
And
Leslie.
sorry, this is Commissioner Ramirez.
Yes,
Just out of due diligence, and I know we had at least I had taken some a couple of cracks to it, but definitely again running this through legal counsel just to ensure altogether I'm very satisfied with the products, and so just to ensure that we are putting something that is accurate, correct. So if we're able to just have this again, and I don't know how we utilize counsel here, but just to ensure that we are on the same page. But I went through the different pages, looked at the different codes, and found them on the rag, so I could definitely link them. And so if there's some sort of understanding or tracking that somebody else, in case there's further questions, we could say this is where it was found on code, so it is accurate and contemporary. Because it does apply differently depending on understanding, but the onus is always on those who decide to initiate a business and looking to see in the ways in which the state and their local localities have those particular requirements in place.
thank you, Hector. Commissioner Ramirez. I wanted to state too that as part of our campaign for education and outreach, is this also going to be with our partner for DSA? Are they going to put it on their website also?
That is a really good question. I am not aware at this time whether it's to go on our website, but I can certainly look into that and ask Ida if that's been Ms. Ida Clare, our state architect, and find out if that's the intent also.
I just think the more visibility that we actually have on this topic, the better. So anyone who might even be searching under DSA might see this pop up also in regards to education outreach.
Definitely. I would also suggest that perhaps it should go up on, I don't know, maybe this is the intent already, but the local jurisdictions on the building department's websites, just for folks to be able to do a search and go to their local building department and get information to find out if their parking areas are adequate.
Right. So are we going to be able to send this to every city manager to be able to put that on our, their websites? I know I can possibly do that here with our local city, but that's something too that I was thinking about that we can do as part of our outreach. I see 2 hands up. I saw Zena Hassan's up first. Zena, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. A question and a comment. The comment is, I agree. I think this is really great. Kudos to the staff for working so hard on this. I especially appreciate that it has a little snippet about EV charging and how like the accessibility requirements interact with electric vehicle charging, because that's an issue. Like I know DRC gets a lot of calls and complaints about businesses, not doing it right. So thank you for including that. The question was, are we planning to share this with the Chamber of Commerce? I'm curious if they would be willing to send this to their membership list, because they are often in touch with legislators and other policymakers about, their clients or members facing accessibility lawsuits.
And that's another great suggestion. Committee member Simon, I see your hand up.
Thank you so much. Yes, two comments on the last 2 comments that I support both of them a lot. One, the chambers, let's get to the smaller chambers as well. I mean, I feel like that's a list that's fairly easy to find, but communities of color, LGBT chamber, every chamber we can get a hold of that we can send this to directly. I don't know that they're going to be looking for it on their own. Would be great. Coming back to sending this to the cities again. Now I'm a city employee here. I'm a city department head. I'll tell you, in LA at least, me having it has one advantage, but the mayor's office receiving it directly from the state has a different advantage. Building and safety receiving it directly from the state has a different advantage. And these are political divisions, but quite frankly, any way I can help make sure we get it in as many hands as possible, even within my own city government, but the direct CCDA to these entities would make a huge difference, I think. So I'm glad to work with April offline on that, at least in our neck of the woods. But I have a feeling that would apply in a lot of parts of the state, big city or small.
Right. And what about also putting it on, Commissioner Ramirez, you might have some input on it, but putting it on commissions, like local commissions on disability. For example, I think the county has a commission on disabilities, for LA County, excuse me, Commission on Disabilities, putting it on their website. I think you're on mute.
No, thank you. This is Commissioner Ramirez. No, I actually do think that's a good. I think Executive Director April had already included in part of the distribution strategy and the outreach strategy, definitely working with our commission. And so we had a discussion, I want to say last week, particularly to be able to include outreach, given the different scopes. So like in Los Angeles County, we have the LA City Commission on Disabilities, and then we have the County Commission on Disabilities. And so similarly throughout the state, we do have that bifurcation of disability. That's why I was recommending to have that particular outreach strategy. And then definitely including all equitable Chamber of Commerce, our LGBT or Native American Chamber of Commerce, our Latino, our Black, and our women's. Focusing on small businesses being an intentional goal was one of the items that were included in the equitable strategy that were shared earlier. So I was very glad to hear further about that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other discussions in regards to our role on education outreach? Do we have any comments from the public at this time?
Chair Dr. Alhassan, there appears to be no indication in the chat.
Okay. So if there's no other discussion or questions regarding this, I'm moving on to item number 8, which has to do with our multilingual educational materials. And again, I'm referring this back to our executive director, April Dawson Rawlings, in regards to discussion of what resources that we're going to be doing for this. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Alhassan. This is April. I know I mentioned this throughout, and part of the reason I mentioned it throughout is while it's important to call out equity and the importance of, one of the ways that we are trying to, do our work within the lens of equity to call out specific agenda items like how we're doing multilingual educational materials, it really should be mixed into every agenda item and not just, sort of, you have to have sort of a mix of both. So there's intentionality. And so that's why we wanted to call it out specifically, but also I've been mentioning it throughout the meeting. And so I've mentioned earlier that one of our equity goals is to make sure that we are reaching business owners and other stakeholders who speak languages other than English. Traditionally, we have translated our documents into Spanish and Mandarin as well as English, but now we are going to be translating them into the top threshold languages across California, as well as whatever the threshold language in the regions that we're going to be doing listening forums in. So whoever we're talking to, we look at the census data from now on, and we look at what the top threshold languages are for those areas, and we make sure that when we do programming in those areas that we're making sure that there's a translated document. And we actually committed quite a bit of dollars from our high frequency litigant fund toward a contract with a company that does both translation, and they do translation in over 200 languages. That's their capacity. They also are the company that we use when we do regional outreach and listening forums and webinars for language interpretation as well. So we're doing a lot with multi-language educational materials, as well as multilingual interpretation at events and our programs online as well. And so that's one of our commitments to equity. One of the other things that we want to do is set aside resources so that we can look at the census data in the places that are trending on our top 10 list that we report to the state legislature every year, of the top 10 areas of the state that trend on alleged disability access violations for construction and websites, and look at what the business owner makeup is of those areas, and think about who have we been talking to and who do we need to talk to. And then what multilingual materials are we missing? And not just that, but it's one thing to create a PDF, but it's another to, you know, work with cultural brokers and actually build like meaningful connections. I know that our partners at the Pacific ADA Center, they've been educating me a lot. I'll be talking about our partnership with them in our next agenda item, but they've been teaching me a lot about how they've been working with partners, multilingual partners, and creating programming that is specific to certain communities. Because sometimes what we have been learning is that we always want to make sure that all of our events are accessible to whoever wants to come in whatever language they need. But there's also something to be said for sometimes it might be a good idea to create a webinar or an event specific to a specific group of people, as long as they are co-creating that event with us. And so I think that that's something that has really been a shift in the way that the state has been doing business in the last couple of years, particularly, you know, from, you know, the 2020 census, and a lot of us who worked on that project, you know, moved on to state employment and have kind of infused that in. And so it's been a really exciting thing for us to start doing that. So we've been embarking on that. And I just wanted to share that those materials have been all ordered, and I will let the committee know when they're up on our website and everything is done being translated. But everything will be, it's like, you get a language, you get a language, you get a language, but we're also doing it intentionally and not just to stick a PDF on a website that no one reads also. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any discussions from our virtual attendees and from our committee or commissioners?
This is Commissioner Ramirez. So I definitely want to thank you for this particular implementation and having really good metrics. So I really do see demonstration of a plan to really implement equity in this. So I really want to thank you and the staff for having done this. And then again, just really highlighting the benefits of this, particularly with the social media strategy that you're going to be discussing. Definitely, as you look into breaking this into different assets or chunks of information, having those available, as well as we do the distribution of the document, the information on social media, like the ones that you have used right now, are going to be very, very helpful. I'm looking and I'm tracking, but the event that you're promoting seems to be getting a lot of traction, not on Facebook or YouTube, but on LinkedIn. You know, and so really highlighting as a possible next asset, given the fact that that's primarily for business sector engagement. So the post that has been shared on that particular post seems to be generating really good participation in that particular section. So I really want to commend you on that.
Thank you. That's another great point you brought up, Hector, about, excuse me, Commissioner Ramirez, about putting it on LinkedIn. I think that'd be a great thing too for our parking campaign, and putting it out there on our LinkedIn, which is also, we can also talk about, I know later on we'll be talking about other social media sources, but that's a great comment. Thank you. Do we have any questions from our attendees, public virtually, or attending virtual? Any public comments or questions? No, okay. Hearing none, I'm going to move on to our agenda item for 2024 webinars. And I know, April, you've touched on this already a couple of times, but I'll turn it over to you to elaborate more. Executive Director April Dawson Rawlings, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dr. Hessen. This is April. And also I want to make sure I'm modeling accessibility. So just to describe myself, I'm a white woman in her 40s with brown eyes, and I have vitiligo, and I have sort of brownish salt and peppery hair, and I'm wearing a green and white, a green dress with some white flowers on it. And behind me is some family pictures and a printer and a planter. And so I just wanted to make sure I was getting better at doing that. So I'm excited to talk about our partnership with the Pacific ADA Center. What you have on the screen for those of you attending virtually is, it says CCDA upcoming webinars, and I'm going to talk about each of them, but to the left is a flyer advertising our May 30th webinar, and it says ADA opportunities for small businesses, and there's some like graphics of wheelchairs and batteries and dollars and hearts and checklists, and it says join us for this collaboration webinar, register here, and there's our logos are on it. And then on the right talks about our ADA building blocks lunch and learn with the city of Sunnyvale, which is on Wednesday, April 17th. I'm going to go slower and talk about each one, but and it has like a picture of sort of a shingle that's red and blue, or excuse me, red and white, and like a little picture that says shop on it, and the logos of Sunnyvale, CCDA, and Pacific ADA Center. So that's what's on the screen. So the reason why we wanted to collaborate with the Pacific ADA Center is that they do a lot of technical assistance for anyone and everyone that wants to learn about the ADA. And we thought that it would be a really great idea to sort of do a mutual partnership where we're helping them increase their business visibility with what they're mandated to do. And then they could help us internally make sure that our programming has the technical expertise that it needs. And so it's been a really great partnership. We launched it last October with a lunch and learn. So we're experimenting with different times of the day. We're doing these, what we're calling lunch and learns, and we are doing one on May 30th, and that will be on the intersection of Title I and Title III of the ADA, as well as service animals. And we'll also be talking about how the Title I talks about employment, and Title III talks about places of public accommodations. And sometimes, you know, we want to make sure that we're educating businesses who have employees with disabilities, how they can engage in the interactive process and really improve, you know, their ability to make sure that they're inclusive just inside themselves before they go out to the community, talking about, you know, maintaining their accessible features. And there's quite a bit of interest. I know when I was working at the Independent Living Center in my last role in the community, the number one question we would be asked is about service animals and the difference between service animals and emotional support animals. What's allowed, what's not allowed, what can you ask, what can't you ask? And so we're going to have fun with that at our webinar. Our webinar on July 18th will be discussing sort of how far we've come with the ADA then versus now, some trending court cases as well, given that we have a legal portal. So we'll kind of be bringing that in, some trends in recent cases and what that might mean for the future of disability access compliance. And we're excited about that, and just sort of how far we've come in California and the nation with ADA compliance. We're also going to be having a third webinar on September 5th, and we're going to be talking about, since it'll be right before the holiday, many of the major holidays in America, certainly not all the holidays, but some of the major holidays, and thinking about other holidays throughout the year, we're going to be giving businesses a head start on customer service during busy seasons, and how they can remember to, again, maintain their accessible features, how they could think about access when they're doing their marketing or when they're setting up their shops. For example, I was just thinking about the eclipse that's coming up, and a lot of small businesses in those regions where the eclipse is going to happen have been really wanting to promote, the goggles and things you need. But I recently saw a company that's like creating how to make the eclipse accessible, like creating, how to listen to the sounds of eclipse, and how to make sure that people who may not be able to see the eclipse could experience it in other ways. And so just examples like that about how businesses can take advantage of and leverage diversity with disability in their products and services. And all of our webinars in partnership with the Pacific ADA Center will include American Sign Language and captioning, as well as language access. And one of the things that we're also going to be developing, the May 30th webinar will be co-facilitated by myself and the Director of Programs, Jan Garrett. But Jan and I have been talking about how we'd really like to diversify who we bring on to these lunch and learns, and how it doesn't always have to be Jan and I, that we really do want to make sure that other speakers and other trainers may want to also join the discussion. So we'll be talking about how to make our other webinars a little more, less the Jan and April show, even though we really enjoy working together. We also will be hosting we're partnering with the city of Sunnyvale to do a targeted webinar for their city staff, as well as for small businesses within the city of Sunnyvale. And so we're really looking forward to that as well. And we'll be talking to them about Title II as well as Title III, so that we can talk about making sure we help train both their city staff as well as small businesses in their area. And we're excited about that as sort of a first step in working with the city of Sunnyvale, and the potential to do future programming there. And their city staff attended our San Jose Listening Forum, and that's how we were able to build that relationship. So an example of how we're building, cross-regional relationships with our programming. So I'm really excited about these webinars, and I look forward to any comments or questions you have about the programs.
Great, thank you, April. Do we have any questions from our committee members, commissioners virtually?
This is Hector. This sounds very exciting. It's a lot of different activities, so it's really good to see this. Definitely appreciate the partnership with the ADA centers. I know they're very good trusted sources and have a really good understanding of utilizing trusted community ambassadors. So I really I want to thank you in this particular work and continue doing it.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez. Any other questions at this point from our committee members or commissioners? Do we have any questions from our public at this time attending virtually? Okay, great, thank you. I wanted just to make a quick comment about marketing the webinars. Are we again able to, I know it's going to be on our website, but also looking at making it
For sure.
for our again, LinkedIn or other sources of businesses where they can tap into that.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Elhessen. This is April. I can say that yes, we're utilizing our social media to do that. And also the Pacific ADA Center has a pretty extensive list. And then our municipalities that we've worked with and also our mailing list are sending it out as well. And I'll talk more about our social media soon, but I agree with you to make sure that it gets out there, not just on our website.
Yes, because I want to make sure we try to put it on our, maybe you can send me the link for our city. I can put it out for the city of Bellflower, at least put it out on their we have a newsletter, and on their website, maybe they'd be doing that also with our chamber.
Great, thank you.
And I think it's a great resource. Thank you. Okay, if there's no further comments, then we'll move on to agenda item number 10. And in this case, we're talking about the CCDA Facebook and YouTube channel. And I'd like to refer this again back to April Dawson Rawlings to discuss media outlets.
Thank you. This is April. On the screen you have, there's a lot going on here. It says CCDA new Facebook and YouTube, and some of the images I've described in prior slides. On the left, there's the top of our Facebook has a picture of California in blue, and it says California. It has actually this is our YouTube. The left is our YouTube. I had to orient for a second, even though I practiced this. And it's the same picture as before, where there's a Asian gentleman wearing a waiter outfit who's serving 3 women of color who are older adults wearing pastel colors. One of them you can't really see here, but she uses a wheelchair on the right, and they're outside at a restaurant. And then there's thumbnails of all the different videos that we've already uploaded, and I'll go into that in a moment. To the right is our Facebook page, and it has the same photo that I described before, but it says an accessible, barrier-free, inclusive, and equal opportunities and participation for all Californians. And it has our name and a little bit about us and some of the photos that we've already used, some thumbnails of the posts that we've used in the past. And then an example of a recent post, which was our 2-week notice post of our listening forum coming up that I'll talk about soon. And so on March 1st, we entered into a 6-month pilot with the Office of Public Affairs with the Department of General Services. So many of you may not know that CCDA, is a commission that's made up of commissioners who are appointed by many different authorities, such as the governor's office, the Senate Committee on Rules, the Speaker of the Assembly, the Attorney General, and the State Architect, as well as 4 legislative ex officio members. But administratively, all of the staff that help to put CCDA on and support the commission's work are employees of the Department of General Services, and we're administratively nested within the Department of General Services. So I know that it's been really important for this committee in particular, and the commission as a whole, to have more visibility on Facebook and YouTube and be able to have our own unique voice to definitely help to promote the Department of General Services, but also to show that we have our own unique voice. And so what was important to do was to get our own Facebook and YouTube. And the first step to doing that was to enter into this 6-month pilot that was initiated on March 1st. So for the next 6 months, we'll be monitoring our analytics and reporting them to the Department of General Services. And then the department will make a decision about how in the future commissions nested within DGS approach social media, whether that means we get our own username and password or how that will work. But we're really excited. So for our Facebook page, we have 120 followers and we have over 50 likes for this after being on board for a little over 30 days. And this is where we'll talk about our meetings, our listening forums, our toolkits, everything we want to advertise. And you'll be able to go to this page, and it would be really great if people if you haven't followed us, please follow us, like us. And then also you could share to your own pages about things that are going on to get the word out about us. And then for our YouTube channel, we don't yet have the ability to live stream our meetings. That's a future goal that I hope we can do, but our partners can, and when we co-facilitate meetings in other places. But we also will be posting all the recordings of all of our meetings and listening forums that are recorded or webinars that are recorded going forward. We usually record all of our programming unless a municipality or a specific group has privacy concerns, and then we haven't had that request yet, but and most of the time we haven't had that problem. So the majority of our programming will be up on YouTube, and you'll see that some of what's up there already is a little bit dated, just because we're trying to create a catalog where people can go back and through the life of what we have recorded, and really use YouTube as a library as well. And hopefully someday we'll be able to live stream. So I am really excited that we've launched this and look forward to hearing ways that we can make our social media presence even better. And also for YouTube, we'll also be posting training modules once we've developed those as well, because I know that's a goal of this committee as well. So I will look forward to hearing advice on how to make our social media successful.
Thank you, Executive Director Dawson Rawlings. I think it's great. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Executive Director, for doing such an outstanding job and getting us. That's been one of the goals for our CCDA, especially education outreach, to be out there. So it's really great to see it manifesting. So wonderful. So I'd like to open it up then to our committee and commission members. I see your hand raised. Commissioner Ramirez, you have the floor.
No, thank you. And Executive Director, I am really excited about this particular project because it's one that is able to provide almost real-time analytics. Is one of the reasons I like it. And definitely seeing the amount of people that are following the page from the time that it was deployed until now, it is actually really, really good. And then definitely looking at the membership that you have. So that's always a really good indication, particularly for Facebook, who has very interesting track records for activity right now. So the fact that you have gotten some really good uptake is a really good indication. And I think one of the things that I see as a good utilization for this is both the live streaming of meetings. It's always a really good place to do it because it's more common for folks to use this for that. But then also the utilization of events notice in their calendar section for Facebook is one way that I have seen people in my community utilize Facebook for events, because it gives people advance notices. They can share it to other parties, and Facebook is one of the contents that people sometimes are able to just saying that they're interested. It shows that particular information to some of their other users, so it helps to really build an audience. So I'm really, really excited with looking at this particular numbers. I can't remember what the original target was for this pilot as for the number of followers for Facebook. And I think, if I recall, I think now you've met that goal. I think it was in the 70s or 80s, but perhaps, Executive Director, if you could just again remind me if there was such a goal so that I could keep track, because I look at this every day now. I guess I see people in my community on Facebook, liking it. Is like, oh, that's a good thing. But similarly on Instagram, given that it is more of a business educational kind of environment, that's where I also have seen some gathering. So congratulations. This is a really good indication that you and your staff are really doing the right thing.
Thank you. And this is April. I'll answer your question. We have to maintain 90 followers throughout the pilot. We don't, because our YouTube is sort of in its infancy, we don't have to have a specific number of followers. We have 20 subscribers right now, but we would love to have more. And I think we will get more as we post, more new and original content. But we have to maintain 90 followers throughout the 6-month pilot in order to maintain our accounts that we've been given. And there is a message in the chat that asks, is our videos providing ASL signing, since not all folks who sign ASL also read and write. And so we, just so you know, all of our full commission meetings provide ASL, and so those recordings will capture ASL and interpreters doing their thing during the meeting. So we'll be able to spotlight that when you watch the recording. Also, for our listening forums and our Pacific ADA webinars, those also have ASL signing. So we'll also spotlight the interpreters in the recordings that we post. And we are looking at our modules and making sure that our modules that haven't been created yet, but will be created soon, will be able to have ASL embedded into them. I know that one of our other state partners, the Cal Able, they did a really great recently. They actually had a video that was just in ASL, the whole thing, and the actor was deaf, and so I'd like to do more of that also. Spotlight interpreters, but also I'd really love to see, you know, deaf representation or hard of hearing representation in those videos with the people that are in them. So great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from our committee members or commissioners attending virtually? All right, seeing none, I'd like to move to our public members. Is there anyone in the public that has any comments or questions regarding this agenda item? Okay, great. All right, so given that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our agenda item for 11, which is our 2024 CCDA Listening Forums. And excited to hear the updates from our Executive Director, April Dawson Rawlings. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Dr. Alhessan. This is April. On the screen, it says there's an image and it says CCDA Upcoming Listening Forum, and it talks about disability access for small businesses. I'm going to share everything that's on this piece of paper, but there's several icons representing just different disabilities, as well as several logos that I'm going to voice them. And also I just got a note from the staff that our captioner has a hard stop at 3, so I will be brief so we maintain the accessibility of the meeting. But we have several regional listening forums throughout California. This is a part of a 3-year initiative we launched last August. Our first forum was in the city of San Jose. We followed that up with a webinar. And the idea is to bring together municipal governments, people with disabilities, and small business owners in each region. And we use the data from our top 10 list of alleged disability access violations and areas to target which municipalities we should approach for this programming. And sometimes it also happens organically where they'll, such as with Sunnyvale, where they maybe didn't necessarily trend on our data, but they asked us to do some programming with them. So our next forum is on April 11th in Salinas from 3 to 5 p.m. It is both in person at the County of Monterey Board of Supervisors chambers, as well as online via Zoom. There will be ASL and captioning and Spanish provided. And this is the English flyer, but we also have a Spanish version as well that has gone out. And we're going to have a panel as well of customers with disabilities, as well as small business owners, chamber reps, and city officials will be in attendance as well. And so we're looking forward to that. I mentioned that we are having not a listening forum, but a webinar with the city of Sunnyvale. It's sort of a mini listening forum on April 17th from 9 to 10:30. We are also planning a listening forum for Orange County on June 26th, and that will coincide with our CCDA full commission meeting. So half the day will be a full commission meeting and the other half will be the listening forum on June 26th. And information about that is pending about the timing of it. We're also in conversation with the city of Los Angeles. We'll be having a meeting with committee member Simon's team in late May, just to talk about what programming in their area might look like. So that's in the very early stages. So, but right now we've got Salinas and we've got Orange County, and those are the ones that are confirmed thus far. We're also going to have one in Sacramento, which is pending a date. And then next year, we'll use our data to determine which municipalities to go to next year and the year after that. And all of our forums follow a similar format. We always try our best to co-create the forums with each municipality, but we have found that quite a few of the municipalities really like the format we have. So we present that to them, but also talk to them about how to tweak it. So it usually involves a training component, usually a local CASP, then followed by customers talking about their experiences, and a mix of different people on the panel, different stakeholders on the panel from the business and disability and municipal government communities. And then it goes into Q&A. And then we also kind of have a component where the idea is to bring people together who may not always naturally know about each other and talk to each other, to try to break down silos, to realize we're more alike than we're different. And so we've heard a lot of positive feedback. Usually our average participation is between 30 and 50. We try to cap it at 50 participants at each forum, so it's a meaningful discussion. And we also allow for participants to bring their access questions. We also have on the panel one of the members of the Office of the Division of the State Architect come as well to answer some Q&A about access questions. So it's really a kind of a one-stop shop to get to know your neighbors and try to solve access issues before things get, to make sure that businesses are thinking about access on the front end and not on the back end, and to get to know each other. So it's been a wonderful experience, and I look forward to many more forums for years to come. So hope to see you all in Salinas on April 11th from 3 to 5. There are refreshments that begins at 2, or you can join on Zoom as well. Thank you. And also there will be ASL captioning and Spanish. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, April. Do we have any questions regarding this item on our agenda, the listening forums, from our commissioners or committee members? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to our last agenda item. I'm sorry. Do we have anyone from the public? I apologize. Who's attending virtually that has any questions or comments at this time? Thank you. I know we're a little over our time at this point, so agenda item number 12 for future agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to put anything on our future agenda items from our virtually commissioners and committee members? Okay. Anyone from the public at this time? Okay, seeing none. I would like to just say, I'd like to see a status as we're moving forward in a lot of our social media and our attendance of the upcoming listening forums as well as the trainings. So I look forward to getting that information back, and as far as where we're at and next steps, I guess, from there. So I'd like to thank everyone. Before we adjourn, excuse me. I know that I need to have a motion at this point to adjourn our meeting.
This is Commissioner Ramirez. A motion to adjourn the meeting for today.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez. Do I have a second, please?
Luciana Perfazza, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Do we have roll call then, Presley?
Presley will take the roll call. Commissioner Dr. El Hessan,
Aye.
Commissioner Leon Vasquez, Commissioner Dr. Profasa,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Conway,
Conway, aye.
Committee Member Zina Hassan,
Aye.
Committee Member Arnie Lerner,
Aye, aye, aye.
Committee Member Stephen Simon,
Aye.
Committee Member Alicia Chavez.
Aye.
Okay, and with that, I will pass it back to you. The meeting is adjourned, and I will pass it to you, Dr. El Hessan.
Thank you so much, Presley. Thank you, everyone, for attending. It was a great meeting. Thank you, Executive Director April Dawson, for outstanding report and information and keeping our committee updated and moving forward. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the
Thank you,
afternoon,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.